Who Killed Nura? A Trail of Terror and Tragedy from Mogadishu to Minnesota. On August 2nd, 2024, Nura and her Weisz Somali family were visiting Lido Beach near Mogadishu when an Al-Shabaab suicide bomber arrived and blew herself up. As 5 terrorists opened fire on the crowd, killing Nura, plus 31 more, and leaving dozens wounded. It was the deadliest attack on the Horn of Africa since Al-Shabaab terrorists detonated twin car bombs near a busy market intersection in October 2022. Al-Shabaab is a vicious, heavily armed Islamic jihadi terrorist faction with close ties to Al-Qaeda and Boko Haram. It began an insurgency campaign in 2006 during the Somali Civil War. Its mission is to impose Sharia law by force. Where does Al-Shabaab get the money to pay for its weapons and its bombs? Well, that's a good question. Let's have a look. Meet Abdi Fattah Yusuf and his wife Lul Ahmed. He is a self-described certified master trainer, child care and youth empowerment professional, narrative therapy practitioner, social activist, and university lecturer. She is a self-described sustainability development enthusiastic, interested in poverty reduction, empowerment, and research and development. This Somali couple live in Minneapolis, where they operated a home healthcare company called Promise Health. The company was ostensibly established to provide care to autistic children. In 2025, investigators from the Minnesota Attorney General's office learned that Promise Health was being operated out of a mailbox at a Central Avenue address where a number of other owners of fraudulent Somali-owned healthcare mills came to pick up their checks. The checks were Medicaid reimbursements consisting of both federal and Minnesota state funds. The investigators found no evidence of any autistic children ever having received any care. Yusuf and Ahmed were charged with stealing $7.2 million of taxpayer money through Medicaid overbilling in a personal care assistant PCA scam. So what did the Yusufs do with the stolen $7.2 million? That's another good question. Let's have a look. Investigators reported that the couple spent tens of thousands on luxury items for themselves. That still leaves $7 million. Where did that go? Well, here's a clue. A report by the Manhattan Institute, citing federal counterterrorism sources, alleges that a portion of the Medicaid money stolen in this and in other Minnesota-based fraud schemes was funneled to Al-Shabaab in Somalia. Millions of dollars in taxpayer funds were fraudulently obtained from these programs, including this particular $7.2 million scam involving bogus autism service claims. The money was sent to Somalia outside of normal banking channels using informal money transfer networks known as hawalas. Once the funds reached Somalia, Al-Shabaab routinely took a big cut. On August 12, 2025, Abdi Fattah Yusuf was found guilty of bilking the Medicaid program out of $7.2 million. The jury took almost no time to find him guilty of 6 counts of aiding and abetting theft by swindle. He was set to be sentenced before the Honorable Sarah S. Weisz within 90 days. Some actual post-trial comments by the jurors. Guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. The evidence was overwhelming. It was not a difficult decision whatsoever. It was a completely clear-cut case. On November 23, 2025, President Trump responds. He says, "I have asked Homeland Security Secretary Noem to end TPS protection from Somalis in Minnesota. We cannot allow these fraud criminals to keep using fake charities to siphon taxpayers' money to foreign terrorist groups." Secretary Noem pointed out temporary protected status, TPS, allows people from countries in turmoil because of war, disaster, or other crisis to live and work honestly in the U.S. It's supposed to be temporary, 18 months at most, but Somalis have been getting TPSs since 1992. Our nation's compassion is being abused. Not surprisingly, others respond to Trump's response. Our lawless president is scapegoating the Somali community. He lacks the authority to do what he proposes. We stand with the affected Somalis and say there is nothing temporary about them. They are here permanently. Words spoken by Representative Ilhan Omar. But on November 25th, something very surprising did happen. Instead of sentencing Abdi Fattah Yusuf, Judge Weisz overturns the decision of the jury. She says to him, the evidence was sort of circumstantial. Maybe you didn't really know what your brother or your cousin was doing like you claim. I'm going to set aside the jury's conviction. You are free to go, Mr. Yusuf. Unbelievable. Who is Judge Sarah Weisz? Well, she's the district court judge in the 4th District, Minneapolis, and she was a former assistant public defender where she handled juvenile cases involving child protection matters. She was appointed to the bench by Governor Mark Dayton in 2018, and then she was elected to an 8-year term as a Democrat in 2020. Well, that raises the question, who is Governor Mark Dayton? Well, he is Governor Tim Walz's predecessor and his mentor. In April 2006, Time magazine rated Democratic Senator, then Senator Dayton, known as the Blunderer, as one of America's 5 worst senators. In fact, he even gave himself an F when asked to rate his work as a senator. As a senator, he introduced legislation creating a cabinet-level department called the United States Department of Peace. So what is the conclusions here? Well, there are several. Because of Judge Weisz's deranged decision, many believe she was bribed or threatened, it is unlikely that the Minnesota authorities will be able to mount successful prosecutions of other Somali Medicaid fraud criminals. Also, since Medicaid is funded by both state and federal governments, Minnesota taxpayers, as well as all American taxpayers, will continue to be robbed and swindled. So, money by the millions will continue to flow into the coffers of Somali terrorist organizations, money used to purchase more weapons and more bombs. And so, more innocent children like Nura, as well as adults, will continue to die. So finally, we come full circle. Who killed Nura? Was it the Al-Shabaab Somali terrorists at the Lido Beach that day? Well, yes, of course it was. But was it also U.S. immigration officials who have for decades allowed criminals posing as refugees to freely enter our country? Yes, I believe it was. What about Somali immigrants who steal money from autistic children and channel it to bloodthirsty Islamic terrorists? Are they to blame? Yes, I believe they are. And what about liberal members of Congress, like Congresswoman Omar Ilan, who defend Somali criminals and who falsely brand anyone trying to stop them as being racist? Yes, I accuse her as well. What about Democratic judges who allow Somali fraud criminals to escape punishment and walk free? Yes, definitely, by all means. And finally, what about us? What about American taxpayers who fail to demand that our government act responsibly to end such atrocities? Sadly, the answer is also yes. Thank you.